Hi, it's my name. If this is your first time watching, welcome. If this is not your first time watching, welcome back. My name is Brendan. I am an English teacher and a language teacher. I have been for about 10 years now. And here we're going to try something very different today. So, if you don't know much about me, I'll put a link either here or here. I'll put a link to my first video so we can get to know each other a little bit, talk a little bit about film. But in today's video, we're going to change the narrative a bit. We're not going to talk about film. Instead of talking about film, we'll talk about something called soundtracks. Soundtracks and storytelling. And storytelling is my favorite kind of teaching, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now, this first part of the video will be we'll be talking about a little bit of a review of what we did in the last video. So a bit of connections between this video and the last video for you teachers. We'll be talking a bit about the blurting method. After that, if you haven't seen the first video, go ahead and click the link above or down in the description. I'll put a link down to the first video, so you can watch the video and then come back. If this is not for you, no worries. Skip ahead to the next part where we'll be talking more about music and about stories. And then we'll get into the meat of our lesson and talk a little bit about creating stories through music. So it's a fun lesson today. I'm very excited. Let's go. So for those of you who watched the first video, we're going to take a second and talk a bit about, think a bit about some of the things that we remember from last time. So here is a method that I use. I'm learning Japanese, and this is a method I use to study and to remember the different verbs and the different words and the different concepts that we learn in class. It's called the blurting method. To blurt, how can I say this? Blurting is actually a verb. To blurt, it means to just blah, 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 blah. It's really this action of blah, 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 and that's blurting. So let's say, for example, we're in class and the teacher says, the teacher says, what is, oh, let's change this back to, excuse me, I'm using the wrong keyboard here. Let's change this back to this. Here we go. Let's imagine you are in class and the teacher says, what is 2 plus 2? What is 2 plus 2? We all know 2 plus 2 is 4. I have a film that we'll watch in a few classes about that talks about this. It's a really funny film. We'll talk about that later. But imagine, what is 2 plus 2? The teacher says this. There are some students who raise their hand, and there are other students who blurt out 4, 4, 4. And they don't raise their hand, they just say it. They don't think, they just say it. They just say it. That's to blurt or to blurt out. So talking without thinking, doing without thinking, just bleh, just throwing it out. And we have a guest here today, my cat Coco, who just woke up from an 8 hour nap. I wish I could be like her because I would love to sleep 8 to 10 hours a day. That would be wonderful all day. So she'll come back and forth. Anyway, to blurt. So the blurting method is basically a method that we use to a few days after class, or maybe the day after class, or even after class, we just from our head without studying, without thinking, we just throw out all the things we remember from class. So there are a few parts. First part here is we write down what we remember. So from first, what do you remember? You can pause the video, think about a few things that you remember, and once you're ready, then we'll come back to the next part, which is what you forgot. Maybe you have an idea about something that you did in class. Maybe you remember vaguely. You have a small idea of something that we talked about, but you don't really remember what the word is. You don't remember what the expression is, what you forgot. Well, forgot, quote unquote. Pause the video if you want to. And next, we talk about the questions you might have. So after last class, what questions do you have about the topic, about the the vocabulary, grammar, etc., etc., etc. What questions do you have? Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to write. Think about it. To help you out as well, let's say that here we'll put about 5 minutes, okay? Plus this, maybe 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes, we'll say. So 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. I will keep going because I want to continue with the lesson, but take as much time as you need here. What do you remember? What did you forget? What are some things that you'd like to review? And what are some questions that you have? Now, obviously, we can't really talk about this in a conversation like this, but since this is me giving a class, what we can do though is I invite you to post your questions and well, feedback, I guess, your feedback in the comments, in the comment section below this video. Talk about it. What are some questions you have? What are some problems that you had that you'd like me to go over? No worries. We can do a 10-minute video after this class where we talk about these kinds of things. I'd be happy to do it. All right, so I will continue going with this. Normally in the class, I would give about 5 or so minutes, 5 to 8 minutes to do this, to give students time, to give you time to think about what you remember, what you forgot, what questions you have, and then we come together, maybe in groups, maybe as a class, and talk about it together. So when we talk about what you remember, there could be some concepts that you remember, some ideas. So you remember in the last class, uh, hello, you. There we go. Remember in the last class we talked a lot about film. We talked about we talked a lot about film, about confidence. We talked a lot about a woman who was lost, okay, who was lost, who went on an adventure. These are some words that pop up. Now, continuing with this blurting method, I want to focus more on the words and the ideas. So here we're going to, in this, I mean, it's good if you remember the concepts, excellent. Here, today, I want to focus more on the words from today. What are some of the words that you remember? Now, obviously, we can go over here, we can click and find the page and look at it ourselves, which I will put the link in the description below. I want to focus on some of the keywords that I felt were key from last class. So one of the main words that we talked about was at the very beginning. We talked about a word called guess. I'll make this a little bigger. Talked about the word guess. So if we're gonna put this together, obviously, it's nice to have the word. It's also nice to have a sentence that goes with it. So if we can put this into a sentence, um, I don't know, but I guess you are from the US because you have an American accent. It's the same thing as a supposition, the same thing as a similar thing as an inference, similar thing to an inference, a guess. So it's a verb and a noun. It's a verb and a noun. You can use it for both. Guess. Now, another word that we learned, and that was the key word of the lesson, one of the key words, because it was the title of the movie, was clue. Ah, so it's so small. Clue. I think I should probably invest in in Microsoft Office. That might actually help me a little bit. Next time, next time. So we have a clue. Now, for example, let's say that you didn't know, or you don't know where I come from. I can give you a clue. I can give you a hint. I can say, "Oh, yeehaw!" What's another thing? Melting pot of cultures. Another thing, Washington, D.C., New York, for example. These are clues. So we can also say the detective found clues about the crime. He was looking, or she was looking for clues. They were looking for clues to solve the crime, to solve the problem, to solve the murder. I'm a big fan of NCIS. Well, the last season 19, I think it kind of lost a little bit, but that's besides the point. We're getting a little bit off topic, Brendan, but welcome to my classes. So, clue, another word that we learned, and this is something that's important for today's class, is the word monotonous. Monotonous. I'll make this a little bit bigger because I want to focus on dividing this word. So we have the word monotonous. I don't know if any of you remember what this word means. But if we divide it, how can we divide this word? What would you how would you divide this word into its parts? Give you a second. Here's what I would do. Mono, tone, and then the last part, us. Us just means it turns it into an adjective. I hope my mouse is going to do this. Yes, nice. Thank you, mouse. All right, it turns it into an adjective. Mono. Mono is a very useful and very common prefix. All it means is one. Oh, one. That's it. That's it. Mono. Here we're talking about tones. And tone is another word for, I'll write it here, is another word for a color. So one color. So let's say our lives have only one color. There's only one thing that's special about our lives. Obviously, that's not the most exciting. You remember from the film that the lady's life, there we go, that the lady's life was quite monotonous. It was quite simple, quite boring even at the very beginning. She didn't do much. She had a very simple, routine life. Her life was monotonous. Every day was the same. There was no change, no colors except blue and gray. It was a very sad life in my opinion, but maybe you disagree. In any case, we have monotonous, which is one color. The opposite of monotonous, anyone remembers? Obviously, it's something that is full of color, a lot of color. So color, full, colorful. Remember that full itself is a word, but when we add full to the end of a word, we lose that second L. Not necessary. Not necessary. So colorful, colorful. These are two words that I think are the most important for today. We have the word colorful, we have the word monotonous, and of course it's going to tell me that's the wrong spelling because it is in British English. So I still have a few things to learn about OneNote, that's for sure. That's for sure. I will say this word is spelled, I can even set the proofing language to, you see UK. I'll set it to US. There we go. Perfect. So monotonous and colorful. Another word, and the last word that we can talk about was the word unexpected, which comes from the word expect. Unexpected. Now, same activity. How can we divide this word? How would you divide this word? How would you separate this word into different parts? How would you separate the word? Give you a second to think about it. All right. So here we have, give you three parts. Uh, Technically, it can be divided into two, but we'll keep this expect because we're not going to get really into Latin derivatives. I don't think it's I think it's useful for right now for this class. But we have expect, and id. Id just turns it into a well. Past participle, we can also call it an adjective as well. That works here. Nope. You call it an adjective. Just means not, and to expect something. For my birthday, I expect everyone to say happy birthday. Yes, please. For my grandma's birthday, my grandma expect did not expect anything for her birthday. She did not think that someone would give her something for her birthday. But we got her a very nice trip to the mountains. And so we took her to the mountains for her birthday. And that was for her unexpected. She did not expect to go to the mountains. I'll put it here so you have it here. Up a trip to the mountains for my grandma's birthday was unexpected. You can even say the cake exploding into 400 pieces was unexpected. We did not expect the cake to explode. What's another thing we can say? My I It was, give you a more advanced grammar here. It was unexpected for my mom to visit me in France last week. Not true, but it was unexpected for my mom to visit me in France last week. I did not know, I did not expect my mom to come visit me, for example. That is not true. I think it would take a little bit of money for my mom to come all the way to France. But so there we go, unexpected. So, how do you do? If you have any questions that you have, like I said, put those in the comments below so I can take a look, and maybe we can create a video talking about those questions. If you forgot something, no big deal. Go ahead and write it down. A big thing, and this is important for you to improve, is to take what you remember and to write down some corrections. So let's say that you thought you remembered the word guess, but instead of guess, you wrote it as, I don't know, gas, for example. So you can say it's not gas, but it's guess, and then make sure you write a sentence about it to give you more help, to give you more insight, to help you remember. What's important for these sentences is to make sure there is a connection to your life. If you can connect it to something crazy, something really, really, really crazy, that will really help you to remember the word, because the second you think about it, boom, you have that word in your head. Make sure it can be crazy, it can be something that is emotional, you connect it to something that's important for you. So maybe this is good for me because I hear this a lot in my classes, but maybe it's not very memorable for you. Change the sentence, use something different. If you have a question about the sentence, go ahead and put it in the comments and we can talk about it together. So, learning method. If you want to post your corrections, if you have any questions about your corrections, go ahead again, post them in the comments. It's like a record. Post them in the comments, post them in the comments, post them in the comments. So go ahead and post them in the comments and I'll take a look, I'll respond, and we can talk about it in another video, or I can just respond in the comment. Up to you. So, like always, this whole chart the link to this will be in the description below. As you can see here, here's the notebook. Movies takes you to first one, the first film. The music takes you to this one. Speaking about music, that is what I want to talk about today. That is our keyword here. Talking about music. So when we talk about music, take a second. We're going to do the same activities before. take a second and think about what music is to you. What are some things? How can we describe music? How can we talk about music? What is it? What is it used for? What is music? Take a second, pause the video. No, pause the video and write a few things down in your notebook. Write a few things down about what music is. I will continue. So after you've had some time to think about what music is, we can talk about the same word as before, and that was genres. We have music genres. For example, we have pop, we have classical, we have uh, hip hop, we have R. Oh, where's the key here? Oh, there it is. R&B, there we go. R&B. We have rap, we have rock and roll. We have wait, two L's. We have rock and roll. We have jazz, of course. We have blues, ragtime. I mean, there's so many genres of music. And now the genres of music are starting to morph together, come together, these genres of music to create new genre, subgenres, create new, I'll put this here, to create new subgenres of music, subgenres. So we have genres, we have subgenres. Now, when we talk about music within a film, so music in a film or in a movie, what are we talking about? We can talk about, for example, background music. Okay, nice. We can talk about if you are a music buff, if you are excuse me, not music buff, a film buff, a fan of film, a film buff. If you are a film buff, we can even talk about different types of sound. So diegetic sound, oh, non-diegetic sound. It's a little bit technical here. So this is obviously a video for everyone. Diegetic sound and non-diegetic sound. The sound that can the characters within the movie hear the music, hear the sounds, or not? The difference between diegetic and non-diegetic sound. But that's very technical. Let's talk about something that everyone can use. What about the main music of a film? When we talk about the main music of a film, we're talking here about the soundtrack. The soundtrack. Now, a soundtrack of a film varies from one film to another. Obviously, action movies are not going to have the same soundtrack as an art film, for example. So when we talk about art films, maybe it's slow music, maybe it's very quiet music, maybe suspenseful music, but it's not the same thing as an action film, which would have very loud, very fast, very pow, 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 pow music. It's very different based on the genre of the film, for example. A few other things we can talk about there with the soundtrack. What kind of soundtracks do you enjoy? Ooh, that was actually the perfect one. What what types of soundtracks do you enjoy? So obviously there is a reason why we're talking about soundtracks, and that's because today in today's class we're going to listen to a part of a soundtrack from a very well-known movie and talk and create a story with that. But we'll get to that in a second. So we have music, we have soundtracks. How can we describe music? What are some ways to describe music? For example, we talk about soundtracks. Let's say we talk about a film by a Star Wars, for example. We talk about Avatar, the film we're going to talk about today. How can we describe some of the music? Is it, obviously we can say, for example, we can say that the music is happy, the music is sad, the music is but whatever. We can talk about feelings. Any other ideas? about this? The music is adventurous. What does that sound like? Adventurous. Is that a slower sound, a faster sound? Talk about that a little bit today. Adventurous. Adventurous will be more, it depends on it depends more on how the sound makes you feel. So here, if we can put a title to this, what I'd say is this is mood of the music. The mood, the feeling of the music, happy, sad, adventurous music. We can talk about depressing music. Some music very really oh, it's very sad. It's very slow. It's very lethargic. That means very slow. Uh, Very slow music. Adventurous, depressing, lethargic. I guess I should probably put these in the same line. These are these are similar words here. Adventurous, we can say it is bubbly music, which is one of my favorite words, bubbly. Bubbly music is music that makes you happy. So bubbly, very high, very happy, very joyous, very pompous, very gay, very good, very music that brings a smile to your face. It makes you smile. Bubbly music. So there are lots of things we can talk about. I wonder, did you have any other things you thought about here? Any other ways you could describe music? Go ahead and put them in the comments if you have any other ideas. We talked about music. Let's take a second and talk about stories. I have a question for you, and that is how, what, mm, what makes a good story? How do we create a good story? And there's a connection. There's a connection. Don't worry. But what makes a good story? How do we know if a story, say in a film or a story in a book, let's say the story is, how do we know if it's a good story, sad story, happy story? What makes a good story? I'm wondering what you think about this. Clearly, parts of a story, there has to be, maybe there can be some emotion in the story, excuse me. Maybe there can be an evolution. So the story changes, changes, changes. Now, the evolution can be a rapid or a fast evolution, or it can be a slow evolution. It can be a more, mm, I guess, a step-by-step evolution. Very slow, very, I'll give you a better word, methodical evolution. And here I'll give you the word rapid. Here we're talking about fast and methodical. We're talking a little bit about slow, a little bit more slow. So we got put this up here. Yep, fast and slow. But also, maybe there have to be some characters. Maybe the characters up. Will the characters undergo? Will they transform? Will they have development? Will they develop? Will these characters undergo? That means to pass through, to experience um, development. Development. Will they develop? Will they develop? And how do we know how these characters will develop? How do we know how the story changes? When the story changes? How do we know this? Hmm. I'm curious to know what you think. Curious to know what you think. If you have any more ideas, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll talk more about these together. So, we have a lot of ideas here. We talked about music, we talked about what makes a good story. Now, I want to get into the meat of the lesson, the bulk of the lesson, the topic of the lesson. And that here we're talking about musical stories, or I guess we can also say story through soundtracks. What I want to do in today's class is I want to listen to a soundtrack. some from the movie Avatar. I know Avatar, the blue people. Avatar talks a lot about the environment. Talks a lot about the environment. About changes, about up human impact on the environment, which we can of course go into on at a later date. Avatar. Now here we're talking about the first Avatar movie. We're not talking about the second one. We're talking about the first one, the original. So what we'll do is we'll listen to the soundtrack. So first step. First step is we'll listen to the soundtrack. While we're listening to the soundtrack, as we're listening to the soundtrack, I want you to think about, there's a way I can put a table in, there we go, I'll put this really here, there we go. I want you to think about how we can divide, first of all, think about this. What feelings do you have while listening to the music, or listening to the music? That's number one. What feelings do you have while listening to the music? Up, we'll go down. What feelings do you have while listening to the music? At the same time, I also want to know what um what words would you use to describe the music? Okay. So what feelings do you have while listening to the music, and what words would you use to describe to describe the music? There we go. Put this as 20, make this a little bit bigger. There we go. The two things here. I will get rid of here are the questions. If you want to know the questions, then go ahead and you can keep this in the video. But what I will do is just make it easier. What words to describe what feelings? That's all I'll keep it as for now. I want to add another insert right, there we go. Here we can talk about the different feelings that we have and the different words we use to describe the music. I'll put this here. So that is your mission for now. It's all I want you to do. And try and keep it in an order. Try to keep them in an order. Okay. What feelings do you have while listening to the music? What words can you think of to describe each of the different parts of the music? So without further ado, let's take a look. So I'm gonna stop there. Take a second. Collect your thoughts for a second. We'll watch the second part a little bit in a few seconds. But for now, what are some of the sounds, the feelings, the ideas that you have? We'll go ahead and put this into our little chart here. So, first of all, what are some feelings that you had when going through? When when I was listening, one of the first thing I sort of created steps to connect all of the feelings that I had, all of the hello, to connect all of the feelings that I had. So if I can, I'll go ahead and put that here. Draw that. So first, what I started off with was I had this sort of, it was very mysterious at the beginning. Felt like a mystery. Up, mysterious. Here we're talking about a mystery. It was ooh, very, right before Christmas, you're walking down, you want everything feels magical. That's another word we can add. Mysterious. It felt magical. It felt like there was I don't know, there was a surprise coming. Maybe it was an unexpected surprise. Unexpected surprise. There are lots of, very strange but exciting feelings that I had. And that's when we talk about exciting, that was the second feeling. If I can remember correctly, yes, that was the second feeling that I had from I'll say two to three even. That's I divided them up into different parts of the music. So I guess what we can do actually to make it a little bit easier is we had this first part that I'll put this all here. Here we go. To make it easier. Up here. Make this a little bit smaller. There we go. All right, so that was the first part. The second part that I felt was a little bit more adventurous. It was a little bit longer. It was a little bit more exciting. Yeah, I felt like everything was happy, everything was bubbly, if I can say that. Here, I'll put this here. So for me, the words that I thought up in the second part were more adventurous, like it felt like I was going on an adventure. There was a bit of chanting, da da dee da da dee da dee da da. It was very chanty, like a chant, but also kind of a bit bubbly, It was kind of a bubbly chant. I'll put this, a bubbly chant. I'm not sure if that's if people have ever said that before, but a bubbly chant. It wasn't one sound, it wasn't monotone. So I can put this here. It was not monotone at all, at all. It was more harmonious, harmony. There was more harmony, sound put together, harmony. There were different harmonies. We can say it was um, lots of harmony, harmonious. It's a beautiful word, by the way. A very beautiful word in English. In my opinion, of course. Harmonious. It sounded like everything was going to be okay. Everything would be okay. It's a nice one. Now, going into the next part, this is when it got very exciting. Very, 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 very exciting. You had trumpets that were playing. Do, 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 do. Very, very, very exciting. So that's clearly the first word I'm going to put. I'll put this here. Oh, not that. There we go. I'm copying and pasting because it is so much easier to do that than to format each time. So it was more exciting, like we talked about, exciting. So exciting. It was upbeat, not upbeat, upbeat. There's something that is upbeat, bum, 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 bum. It's very different from bum, 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 bum. It's upbeat, exciting, very, very upbeat. Now, when we talk about beat, we're talking about the rhythm of the music. Beat is the rhythm, the rhythm. Uh, good luck writing that, yeah. Rhythm. And we can even say that it was upbeat, so it was rhythmic. Lots of percussion that were playing at the same time. Lots of different sounds we heard from the drums, from the percussion. It's a very rhythmic section. And we can even say that it was even, oh, hello. There we go. It was even majestic. Majestic or royal. Now, when we talk about majestic, who are we talking about? We say, for example, we have the expression, uh, I'll make this a little bigger for you. It's be a little bit easier for us to see. There we go. We have the expression, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. And here we're talking about the queen or king, the queen or king. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Something that is majestic. I'll make this a little bigger because if I can't see it, I know you can't see it. Let's make this easier for all of us to see. So majestic or royal. Royal, same thing. We're talking about the crown. Something that is royal. I don't know if you've seen the show Royals. Here we're talking about the crown. King, queen, prince, princess. We're talking about royal people. Majestic, majesty, we're talking about the king or queen. Royal, we're talking about everybody. Everybody in the family, yeah. So majestic or royal, something that sounds like a song you'd hear played for the king or the queen or the princess, the prince. Dum, 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 dum. It's very majestic. Getting into that, after that, it completely changes. And for me, it goes back into a sound that was very similar to the first part here. And that it goes back to being mysterious. Hello. There we go. Mysterious. If you remember, that comes from the word mystery, or something that is curious, unknown, exciting even sometimes. But we heard lots of flute, we heard some piccolo. Yeah, piccolo is more like this. So actually, no, more like there we go. More like this. Very, very, very small piccolo. We heard the oboe, which is the instrument that I play. Very mysterious, very it's like we are in the caves, you know? Like let me draw this for you. It's like we're in a cave. All right, here we go. It's a cave. Looks like bread. Now I'm hungry. It's like we're in the cave, right? And so here you have a cave. And when you hit something on the cave, there's an echo, 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 echo. I can give you a little clue with this. Let's look at cave sound pipes. Like pipes, kind of what we listen to.
To play the instrument.
We don't need to listen to the to the whole documentary, but we have that kind of cave-like sound. So I'll put this here. Here we go. Cave-like sound in here. So it's like we're listening to like we're in the caves kind of thing. So we've only listened to half of the the music, half of the main theme from the soundtrack of the movie Avatar. The movie Avatar. We've only listened to the first part, not even the first half, even a little bit before the first half. We've listened to the main theme from the soundtrack of the movie Avatar. We've talked a little bit about the way in which the music changes from one part to another, to another, to another. Obviously, there are so many changes, like in a story. And a story, like we said, there it can be emotional, there's a certain evolution. There's some development. It can be with the characters, it can be with the story. Imagine if we created a story using the soundtrack of the main theme, the soundtrack of Avatar. If we turn these feelings into a story, their story. Now, this is maybe something you've never done before. I want to try it. I want to try it though. I'll move some of these things up here. So I'll move this up here. I'll erase all of these. We don't really need them. Up, up, up. So let's take a look. For example, I'll make this a little bit smaller so we can see. Oh, there we go. Make it a little bit, maybe a little bit bigger than that. There we go. So if we take these four parts right here, and we turn it into a story, what would the story look like? What would happen in the story? I'll give you a little bit of an idea. For example, to give you a little hint as to what we can do here. Let's say that the first part, if we're talking about something that's mysterious, magical, there's a surprise, an unexpected surprise, it's very, very quiet. We can say that at the beginning, there was a cat named Coco. Oh, named Coco. I'm talking about my cat. The cat named Coco, who lived in a cave decorated by cave, cold and wet, was exciting and what I was going to say was exciting and mysterious for Coco. Then we can keep going, talking more about the cave. But then, bam! There's something new that happens. So here we have the first part. Here we have what we call this blue part right here. Yeah. Like we have up here, the blue. Here we have another blue part. And then what happens? What happens to make the story more adventurous, bubbly? What happens? Who comes? We can say maybe oh, copy paste, go. Coco is suddenly visited by the the prince. Let's say that Coco is visited by this prince, this by the special. I'll make it a little bit more exciting. It was visited by the special Marines, the special soldiers of the cave who came in with the queen of the king of the land, for example, who came in with the queen of the land. The queen, she had a special mission for Coco. Coco really needs this because, to be honest, oof, she has so much energy today. Everyone is in awe, is in shock, in awe, in wow, amazing, in awe. It's a nice expression, in awe of the queen and her mission for Coco. And they decide to, and they rejoice, they celebrate the mission with what does Coco like? With they celebrate the mission. It's good enough. They celebrate the mission. So they keep going, they keep going. There's something adventurous, something bubbly, something upbeat. Coco's very happy. She's so excited to go on this mission. It keeps getting even more exciting because then what happens? The story changes again. Story changes again. And what happens this time? I put this here, make this a little bit smaller here. Here's a little bit different. So what happens? All of a sudden, ninjas arrive. Remember, the story can be as crazy as you want it to be. Yeah? Ninjas arrive and steal who can I say that? Steal the people in the cave. Why are there people in the cave? I don't know, but it's a story. You can do whatever you want with it. This is your story. And steal the people in the cave. We can, instead of steal, let's take away the word steal and let's put the word kidnap. Steal is more for objects. Kidnap is for people, to steal people, kidnap people. Kidnap the people in the cave. Everyone goes wild. They go crazy. They go wild, they go crazy, and everyone is screaming. Well, the screaming, the crazy, the wild. Everyone is in, use a higher word, everyone is in an uproar. Up, remember, like upbeat, up, excitement, happiness, but roar like a lion. Roar, roar. Now, if everyone is up and roaring, uproar, it means excitement, chaos. It's the same thing, uproar. It's a very similar thing to chaos. It's in an uproar. They're scared, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're confused. Lots of things all together. Uproar, uproar. Everyone is in uproar. And then, boom, back to blue. What happens next? So, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. So I think rather than listening to the rest of the songs, we're running a bit low on time here. What I'm going to ask you to do is to tell me, we have all this that could happen to Coco. My question for you is what happens next? What happens next? I'll put the link to this so you can, it's a wonderful song. I really like the soundtrack. It's a nice soundtrack to listen to. It's a nice piece of music to listen to when you are trying to work, when you're working, or you need some background music to listen to while you're typing an essay or working or whatever. It's really nice. So here is, put this here. There we go. All you have to, you can go and click on it, and you have it here in the OneNote, in the OneNote here. So my question for all of you is, what happens next? What is the next part that happens? What happens next in the story? If you're so excited to, if this is your kind of, if you're this is your kind of learning, if you want to go further, if you want to try this kind of learning, I I ask you, go ahead, and I invite you to listen to the rest of the song. Listen to the rest of the music and continue the story. How does the story change? How does it transform? How does it develop? What happens at the end? At the end, we can say this. I'll give you the word for it. How does it resolve? Running out of space here. Resolve. It's the same word as to end. How does the story end? How does the story resolve? How does the story resolve? And this is all up to you to continue with this. So, what have we done today? We have done a lot, actually. This is a very, very, very large course, very, very, very big class that we've done today. We started off with the blurting method. We reviewed a little bit of a few of the words that we learned from last time, a few of the maybe some corrections. We talked about different ways to study, such as the blurting method. Then we went into music, and we did a small brainstorm. Oh, let's spell this correctly. Brainstorm about music. What is it? What are some different types of music? How can we see and hear music? What kind of music is involved in film? How is the mood of the music? What types of soundtracks are there? And we connected that to stories. What makes a good story? So what is important for a good story to have, for a story to have in order for it to be good? We talked a little bit about musical stories, so story through soundtracks by listening to the soundtrack of Avatar. And we talked a little bit, we divided the music up into different sections, different parts. We see that this part repeated at the end, the blue repeated a little bit later. I wonder if the red will repeat. I wonder if the green will repeat. Do you think? listen to the music to find out. We describe some of the different types of feelings that we had. We describe the music a little bit, and we use the feelings that we had to create a story from that. Now, this is an excellent way to practice new vocabulary, as well as just to do something that's creative and fun, and really use your mind to work on creativity, work on imagination. If you're maybe not very creative, maybe you're not very creative, maybe you don't have a big imagination, that's okay. By describing the feelings that you have, by describing the sounds that you hear in the music, you can use that to more easily create a story. And it's okay if it doesn't really work. If maybe you say, ah, that's not exactly mysterious, it's okay. The goal is to use and to reuse new new vocabulary, new sounds, new vocabulary, new expressions. Talking about that new vocabulary and new expressions, what are some of the words that we learned today? We can go through this here together. So this is something we did today, blurting method, okay? We can talk a little bit about the word soundtrack. That's a pretty good word. I want to focus more on things like this. So we have the expression film buff, something that's film, music buff, film buff, book buff. What else can we say? Food buff, or we can say foodie. Both are okay. The mood of the music can be a good word. Um, Words like adventurous is a very nice word. Lethargic, which means very slow. We'll talk more about those very, very, very words later. I have a very nice class that we can do that together. Evolution is a nice word. Development, how does it change? If you want to use undergo, if you feel a little bit excited to try new vocabulary, it's a nice one. Story through soundtracks, okay. Again, we've reused one of our words, an unexpected. I wonder if when you're creating the story, can you, we'll put this here, can you use new words you learned? So can you reuse some of the words that you learned in these classes? How can you put those words into your story? So going back and looking at some of the other things we did, harmony could be a nice word, harmonious, something that is peaceful, something that makes you happy, that makes you relaxed. Upbeat, for example, is a really nice word. An upbeat environment is a very exciting environment. Mysterious, majestic, rhythmic. I mean, there are lots of words that we learned today. I don't expect you to remember everything, of course. If you can remember 2 or 3 words, perfect. Perfect. So you're what I'm gonna ask you to do, and you don't have to send it to me if you don't want to, but go ahead and in your books, in your little notebooks for today, I want you to think about, make this a little bit bigger. I'll put this at 26. There we go. So resolve, or at least we can say, I'll say continue. You don't have to resolve. Continue or resolve the story by one, listening to the soundtrack. So listening to that to the theme, the soundtrack, the music. 2, write the words, write the feelings that you have, let's see, the feelings um you have while listening to the music, and maybe some and describe the music, and using those words, so using the words you wrote, so using those words, um, continue your creative story. Continue your creative story. And if you want to, don't hesitate to share your story in the comments below. I look forward to reading your stories to knowing more about how I can help you with this kind of learning. If you like this kind of learning, let me know because I would be happy to create more lessons like this. I love story-based lessons. So this is what you can do if you don't have to share your story. You can also keep it in your notebook. Up, up, up. There we go. You can also keep it in your notebook just for you to look at. So there is your work. You have your works cut out for you. Good luck. And I want to thank you again for another great lesson. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.